We are live for real, guys. We're good now. We're good. We are good. Let's see if anybody comes in here. Oh, UConn. Here we go. Now we'll have a good signal this time. Big Rich, the Hool. How's it going? No, I met up with Next Gen. Go check his channel out. And here, let's do some computer stuff here. And see if I can't find his channel here. No, maybe not. Anyways, check out his channel if you get a chance. Nathan, what's up? Alex Express, Chuck S, Dragon Steve, what's up? It was like way back when Run DMC had a collaboration with Aerosmith. Even Aerosmith or the Diet Coke rock. Let's talk about diet for a second. Next Gen is lost a lot of weight since the last time I saw him. And he's doing the keto thing. So when we were at Walmart, he was kind of giving me a couple of tips that I didn't know, and it's going to be some things that I'm going to take to heart. I bought this. I don't know if that's showing up backwards or not, but use this to make bulletproof coffee. So we're going to try that. So Next Gen. Okay, so everybody go to Next Gen. I'm pointing like you can see my finger. Go to his channel and subscribe to him. So Alex lost 4 pounds. Cool. Big Rich, I like you. I like your YouTube channel. I wish I could express myself more articulately, but I am stupid. You're not stupid, Big Rich. You are one of the better YouTubers out here, in my opinion.
Big Rich is the furthest thing from stupid I've probably ever watched on YouTube.
There you go. You're a wife approved, man. Wife approved.
Hell yeah. It was yours. It was mine. That's
Oh, let me
yours.
see. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Walmart receipt. So, Nittany Lion says my phone just blew up with 4 Snorlord notifications at once. Yeah, the notifications have been kind of weird. You've been drinking coffee since I was 6 years old, says the Whool. I refuse to put bloody butter and crap in it. Diets are for losers. UConn. So, big grits. That's fine. So, yeah. Anybody watched Jeff's live feed this morning? He was giving away some good information. And Roscoe went live for about 4 hours this morning, I believe. And yeah, so you guys want to pick a topic? We'll talk about it. Speaking of Next Gen, he's the one that gave me this hat. I met up with him. It was funny. We were sitting there. I was rolling I-70 eastbound, and he passed me because I was only doing 60 miles an hour. He passed me and he hollered me on the CB radio, and so we pulled in the rest area, chatted for a minute. I gave him a CD, and he gave me this hat, which these aren't cheap, So, I was very grateful for that. Alex Express says Snow Channel's great. Owner op info too. I don't know about that, Alex. I just do what I do. So I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. If I have a question, I can answer it. that I can answer, then I'll help. But there are a lot of people out there that think my information is worthless. So I just do what I do, and if it works for you, fine. If not, then why are you watching? So just say a prayer for me. But I appreciate the sentiment Alex expressed. One of the topics that I've been talking to my friends about this week is, and Trucking Exec kind of brushed on this a little bit too, is no matter what kind of business you're going into, not just trucking, but any of it, you have to be good with money. There's a lot of people that are not good with money, myself included, that struggle a little bit more than they have to, because being an owner operator is not an easy thing. And if you don't know how to manage money, it could be even more of a challenge. Trucking has a way of blessing things and cursing things. If your marriage has issues, trucking is going to bring out the worst of it. If you have financial issues, trucking's going to bring out the worst of it. If you have willpower issues as far as like food, trucking's going to bring that out of you. And so one of the first steps that you can do is learn how to manage your money and do the math, do the research. There is such a thing as overthinking it, but for the most part, if you can just make the math work and stay on top of it, you'll be all right. Let's see. Why am I not driving? Because I'm taking my 24-hour break, Broncos. I am leaving out tomorrow. So I don't drive and do live feeds. Um, you can buy yourself to death fast. Alex Press says working capital. I appreciate that, Alex, just sharing what I had to teach myself over the course of 2 years. The first few years are critical for spending, right? Um, everybody blesses everybody. It'll show you the issues you need to fix in yourself and around you. That's true. Benjamin. Sorry, I'm trying to go over these comments here. And you know, when it comes to the spot market, it's called the spot market for a reason. If it's not, it could be good one week in one area, and then it'll be good another week in another area. Um, there are weeks when the short haul game is real easy to do in my area, and there are weeks where it's not. It's a supply and demand kind of thing. So, and I saw it at Schneider too. Schneider, you'd have the same loads and the same directions, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're gone. Um, Either that shipper's not shipping anything, or somebody else has beat me to them, or they're giving company drivers, right? So you have to adjust. I did a video about flexibility, and I will be the first to admit that I am bad about wanting to do the same thing every time. If there's two loads side by side, one that I've done before with the broker I've worked with before, and it pays a little bit less than the other one that's all new and pays a little bit more, I'm probably more likely going to do the one that I know. And sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. When I'm dealing with a customer then I know I could be more efficient. If I know I could spend the night there, I could book things a little bit tighter. I know that, if I know the customer, I know what their unload times are, what their load times. Like there are customers inside Springfield that I don't like delivering to because I know how long it takes me to unload. So I tend to be pickier when I choose my loads. Now, do I overthink it sometimes? Yeah, but that's kind of the name of the game. One week sometimes everything falls into place, and other weeks it takes it a minute to piece it all together. And here's something I've learned. So if you guys follow the Rate Per Mile Masters page on Facebook, I posted about, do you guys still call um, do you guys still call on loads that are more than 15, 20 minutes old? And everybody was like, oh, I've called on those that are 10 hours old. I've called on those that were 24 hours old. So me, I have trouble calling if it's past 20 minutes. And here's why. Here's where I came from. When I was at the Blue Star, if a load was on there for more than an hour, it was probably more than likely not there. Why do I think that? Because every time I called, yep, that load's gone. Call on another load. Yep, that load's gone. Yep, that load's gone. It was never about rate. It was always that the load was not there. And it got frustrating. So naturally, when I get to spot market, I'm looking at that or 1, 2, 3. I'm looking at the times like, oh man, it's been 30 minutes. I bet you that load's not even there anymore. And but everybody was like chiming in saying, no, man, call on those loads. It doesn't hurt to call. And so the load that I booked out of Hartwell, Georgia, had been on the board for 45 minutes and it was still there. They just hadn't reposted. Some brokers will repost and repost and repost, and other brokers will post once and that's it. So that's one of the things I'm learning. So let's look at some comments here. Let's see what you won't turn over in 30 days you won't need. The industry is no different than any other. You have to be competitive and informed, supply and demand. Says Big Rich. You can't control up and down markets, so we have to adjust accordingly, says Alex. Take notes and work that experience factor. The longer you survive, the better your chances of surviving. Nailed it. Easy to forget. Overthinking is better than underthinking. I don't know. Sometimes if you just look at something blindly and just put your nose to the grind and make the money, you could do that. But however, it's not. I don't know. It's when I was at Landstar, the challenges that I faced at times, you know, I learned from them. But then I went to what they call CABS class, and the first half is just all safety stuff. No big deal. But the other half, the class was how to run your business and utilize the tools that Landstar had. Landstar had a lot of great low board tools. You can even like access the traffic cameras in certain states to see what the weather's doing. That kind of thing. Um, it had tools to track your IFTA, to get the cheapest fuel. It had a hot market map itself. It had all these different tools, and then the person, if you had a good instructor, taught you this is how you make the connections. Jeff is really good about that. Jeff could teach a CABS class if he was still at Landstar, and it's a shame that Schneider doesn't do anything like that, because a lot of these guys at Schneider, some guys take to it pretty naturally, but other guys struggle a little bit more than they have to because they don't have anybody teaching them, do this, run this area, do this, and you can run this area. They just go by Facebook posts, which, what works for one person may not work for another. And so Schneider, if they want to have, um, if they want to have driver retention, IC retention, I think that would help a lot, because they really don't go over how to piece together loads. They just tell you how to schedule them, but they don't really kind of go into the tricks of the trade. What area do you run? Well, I run this area. So, okay, so do this, this, and then create a triangle, and then these loads appear here, and then you're good. They don't do that. And if they did, I think that they would hold a lot more drivers. Landstar is a private board. I've watched loads for days, then call Friday and dry their wallet for the big bucks. Move to a 30K month if it's a win. If it's a win, yeah. I mean, I just 9 out of the 10 loads that I called on were not available. Plain and simple. And I write, and that's what I ran into when I was over there. Benjamin says, I already got one. I'm watching like a shark for next Friday, monitoring for loads that come out of the dead area, so I know what to set my rate at. Alex says he sent 4 Swift owners to Snyder Lease. Alex, why don't you go to Snyder? I know that you could probably make more money than where you're at now. But to each his own. I am not an expert. I won't tell you where to go and where not to go. But Spooby, Dallas to Laredo, paying $1,400 on a dedicated account should be an easy place to get a load back from. I don't really mess around with the Laredo market. So I don't know. I know that there was a lot. I pulled a lot of freight out of there for Landstar, and he was usually paying pretty good. But when rates tanked, like I'm talking like $1.30 a mile before Landstar's cut, when that was occurring, that was about when I left. So, now the rates are like through the roof over there. So, Alex says I have my authority. But, I'll be, it's like I said, man, it's all a learning process, and Big Rich kind of, he and I were talking a few minutes ago, and he had to learn this without any mentorship. We're pretty lucky at Like Trucking. We got Jeff to help us out, and we got YouTubers like Big Rich and some others that have kind of given really good insight. And I don't give too much advice on how to look for loads and how to get the best rate because I'm still learning that myself. So I try not to make blanket statements, and I try not to tell people how to run their area because I'm not the expert. And what works one week in one area may not necessarily work the next week. I do agree with Jeff with Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois. That's a great area to be in. It's a great area to run in, especially with the short game. Sometimes I go up there, sometimes I don't. And some people might say, well, why don't you go up there all the time? Well, I don't know. So, because that familiarity, but also when it comes to the weekend, you got to put yourself in an area where you can use if you're not running for the whole weekend, you want to be in an area where the Ubers and the big carriers like TQL and JB Hunt and CH Robinson, you can book loads over the weekend. Some brokerages just don't work the weekends. So, man, it says he'll be back on boards in October. You may want to look at, okay, Benjamin, it says you may want to look at a day-to-day game, long watching game. In either case, I'll hit my average goal. So if it goes bad, I have my week met. It's scary, but if you do the same thing, you'll do the same. I do the daily thing. You know, Jeff made a really good point because, you know, on the surface it may have looked like I was struggling to get out of here last week, but the reality is Monday morning. Um, I needed to deal with some stuff at home, and then so I just went home after I delivered, and then Tuesday morning to Tuesday at noon, I realized that I was kind of, I needed to just move the truck and go with the daily rate. And so I picked a load that was a little bit lower than what I normally do it for, but still higher than what I made it with Schneider. So um, that's what I got out of the house with. And I did okay. So the daily rate comes in handy, definitely. I mean, as long as I'm making a certain amount per day, no matter how many miles I'm driving, I'm good. So I've pulled 997 miles for 1,800 to get a 25,000 pound, $2,000. Right. It's a matter of averages. The best week I've had here had the lowest paying load I've ever done and the highest paying load I've ever done, all in the same week. So if you go with the law of averages, I did pretty good. I even got a compliment from Gear Grabber, and that's hard to do. So, in the short game, man, some weeks it's easy to put together. It all depends on what's going on around here. The three main shippers I pull out of here, it depends on what they're doing. It also depends on scheduling too. There's a lot of loads that I came across last Tuesday that they were wanting these 500-mile runs in 6 hours, and they were loading late at night and delivering the next morning. And so I tend to look over a lot of those. There's, so scheduling can be a thing, and when you're delivering somewhere and you don't have a load booked, sometimes you have to find the stuff that's open window or first come first serve, and sometimes that could be a challenge. There's a lot of different challenges, and the thing that makes it great about Uber and Convoy and now Coyote is that you can see the times before you even make a phone call. Because most of the time when you call a broker, you got to get all the information, and and so sometimes it's a little bit harder to get out of somewhere because, in my opinion, okay, this is just my experience. Sometimes it's a challenge for me to grab something the same day I deliver, simply because of loads that don't have the first come first serve, or if you do a little bit of deadhead, you don't have the time to get there. Spooby says, I see a lot of Landstar guys hauling Walmart dedicated lately. Spooby, that's what a lot of the Landstar guys did when the rates tanked. That dedicated Walmart stuff can make some money for you. So, I know they work out of Sanger, I think. So I was in Topeka and it was straight garbage, but I knew that going on because the color map wasn't right. But I made it out like a bandit going in, so the deadhead to Evansville was okay. Next yet, I'm watching the Prime Training Ground, aka Flying J in Springfield. Mr. Barrett, what's up? String 3 together at 6,000 without trying. Right. Let's see. I'm sitting at the Loves in Lake Charles at the moment. It's raining and it's hot down here. Well, yep, that's Lake Charles for you. I'll watch a load, say 2,300 miles. Normal, say 5K. That load floating there on the board for 2 weeks. I'll hit them with a Friday or Monday pick, 7 to 8 grand. Then work, short game back, then take my time off. Yep. And I also try to research where I'm going. That seems to help because and you can tell when everybody else is doing that because you'll have a lot of loads that go to dead end areas that are on the boards, no matter what, if it's Landstar, Schneider, or the open load boards. And two of the shippers out of here do a lot of like Denver, Colorado, Phoenix, Arizona. And I believe TJ was saying that you can make money out west, which is true. But for me, I don't run the west. Again, familiarity. Um, Arizona is about the most I would do. And I know from experience that the rates coming out of Arizona aren't that great unless you're running a reefer. And, you know, it's easy to take a load to, say, Florida and get a quick $3,000 from here. But then working your way back can be a challenge. And I'm not one of these guys that sits there and says, well, I'm not moving my truck for less than such and such mile. I'll move when I need to move. But if I'm looking at a load that, let's say that I'm in an area that, say, is not doing me any good getting out. So what I'll do is I'll expand my deadhead to 200 miles. And then I'll look at, what I'll do is I'll do the math on all the miles, and I'll try to get my rate for that. And if that's giving me my good daily rate, then I'm good. So there's been many times where I've deadheaded 200 miles to get to a load. When you run all miles, it's still above what I need. So Barrett says, I'm on a Tucson load from Waterloo, Iowa to Seattle, 2 drops, $4,800. Yep, good going in. If you really want good rates, you want to be hauling reefer? No. Yeah, I mean, reefer's the highest paying stuff next flatbed. But your costs are a lot higher, and I just don't want to deal with it. I can make way more money hauling heavy haul, but I don't, Asian My Show, what's up? It's been working out, 8 to 11K. Then next week, the dead area. Over the next 2 weeks, for average. Benjamin, are you now? I thought you were at Snyder, or am I getting you mixed up with someone else? Those are high numbers for Snyder. Yeah, it's all about the net. Little Viking coach made a joke about that. It's all about the net and getting your costs down. If your truck payment's $4,000 a month, and you have an opportunity to get it down, get it down. But no Schneider. Okay, who am I mixing it up with? Were you at Schneider? It's a Tyson load, yeah, Barrett. The OJ has fouled over the years. This is Bandit. Getting your costs down is important because when things get tight, and they will get tight eventually. Okay, I'm getting you mixed up with someone else, Benjamin. I apologize. I'm horrible with names, so I apologize. Yeah, sometimes people come up to me at truck stop. Hey, man, what's up? And I'm like, I have no idea who you are. Getting your costs down is important because when things get tight, you want to be able to still move. So, there's a lot of people that go out and buy a lot of expensive things while they're making the big bucks. Next thing you know, rates get cut in half, and you're struggling to make that car payment, that boat payment, stuff like that. And, and then they don't have any money to fix their truck. You don't want to fall in that trap. You have that thumbnail face. It's the hat. Nah, there's probably maybe it's another Benjamin that I'm thinking of. So, anyways, being good with money, having a business sense. Jeff has said it. You got to be a business person first and a truck driver second. Um, and everybody has goals. I remember when all the travel local guys were doing that 30-day, 30,000 challenge. I thought that was pretty cool. Um, I'm doing well here, guys. I'm doing pretty good, but I feel like I need to step up my game. There's always room for improvement. I could have an $8,000 week, but I feel like I need to do better. And so you have to have a dose of humility. You have to have a dose of, okay, I'm not doing everything correctly. I'm not doing everything, you know, I'm making mistakes, and I'm not really making mistakes. I'm just doing things a little bit harder than they need to be sometimes. But Jeff has a lot of faith in me. I have a lot of faith in me. My family has faith in me. So I have to kind of step up my game because, um, come wintertime, you never know what's going to happen, right? You know, you could be an idiot and hurt your leg, you know, and that could hurt. So, um, getting the expenses down, learning from your mistakes, learning what works and what doesn't work. And I'm the kind of guy that's got to, I'm the kid. Okay, I'm the kid that you point and said, "Hey, the stove's hot. Don't touch it." Okay. Hey, the stove's hot. Don't touch it. Okay. Touch. Ow. Told you. Okay, yeah, you're right. I had to learn. I had to learn it my way, right? And within what the second week I was here, I did a load to Florida. So, and but I remember that experience. Tuesday when I was getting kind of frustrated, there was a load that was going to Tifton, Georgia, and I probably would have made about $300 or $400 more than what I made going to Plainfield, Indiana. Not that great if you look at it in the grand scheme of things. However, I had to kind of close my eyes, sit back, and say, "Okay, Steve, what are you going to get out of there?" So I did a search for that area, and the loads were nothing because there wasn't much out there. You know, North Florida or Florida in general, and then South Georgia is a soft market. So I didn't take that load. Now it would have been an easy money. It would have been easy money, just like going to Jacksonville, just like going to Ocala, something like that. And we get paid after every load, so it's more tempting to do that. It's like, hey, I need $3,000 by Wednesday. I'm going to do that load, and then deal with how I get out of there later. And it's easy to get in that trap. You can do that at Schneider too. So it's a learning experience. So I had to remember. Okay, Steve, remember how crappy it was to get out of Florida? Yeah. Okay. Remember how frustrating it was? Yeah. Okay. Don't go to Georgia. Okay. And then that's when you know playing fields popped up. Everyone makes mistakes. The key is not to do the same thing twice. Yeah. Okay. Benji says, fine tune your ability. The turtle wins this race, but you're competing with yourself. The example does not always work, but lately it's been nice when it does. It is. It is a matter of fine tuning. Um, and and I'm not struggling. I'm not. I could throw a dart and make money. It's I could throw a dart at the map and like, okay, I'm going to go there and make money. You know why? Because I kept my costs low. So when your costs are low, I can make mistakes. I can like, okay, don't do that again. Or wow, it took me a day to get out of there. You know, and while I tend to be a little bit pickier than I should, I don't run into a lot of the pitfalls that other drivers do. I haven't had any 10 or 14 hour load times. I haven't had any. I haven't made the mistake of going places like you know that where it's just really tough to get out of a place like Miami or something like that. And that's where experience kicks in. I've been out here for 10 years. So, and I knew that numbers drop a little bit after the 4th of July, which is why I stayed out. And even Jeff this morning, he was showing the average of all of us. And it was like, I don't know, like 13 cents lower this week than it was last week. And so, I mean, you look at the trends, um, and you can make it work with the 15-day or 90-day or 45-day average. You can make that work. And what I look for is the trends. I know by looking at the trends, like, oh, for example, if I choose a load from, say, Missouri to Denver, Colorado, and I look at that load, I'm like, before I call that broker to see what that load's going to pay, I'll look at the Denver market. And if the 15, 30, or 90-day average is considerably lower than, say, the load I'm looking at going to Michigan, that tells me that the trend is that those loads don't pay. That's what the 123 load board does. It tells you those kind of trends as well. So the lane from Missouri to Colorado might be $2 a mile, but the lane from Colorado to Missouri might be $1.50. Now, can you get more out of Colorado? Probably. If you know how to negotiate, you know who to call. However, I would rather take the time and go to a market that pays more. So that load to Michigan, I might look at Michigan, it might be $3 a mile, is the 15 or 90-day average. So that tells me that money is being paid out more there. So that tells me to go there. And that's not really overthinking it. That's just preparing. You Schneider guys should be doing the same thing. You don't want to take freight to a dead area unless you can take the hit coming out. Like if I go to Colorado, I'm gonna get a rate that will cover my deadhead from, say, Denver to Kansas City, because you're gonna more than likely, if you're not going to take something for $1 a mile, you're gonna go to Kansas City, which is about 500 miles. So I know guys that get round trip rates on power only stuff. You know, Big Rich says, "Well, it's almost if I kind of know what I'm talking about. I'm dying over here. Don't be dying." Jason Perry says, "Dropping in Denver Monday for 201 a mile, might get $1.20 coming out." That's the experience that I have found. TQL is a lot of loads. They do. They get a lot of criticism, but the reality, they're they're moving billions of dollars worth of freight every year. Billions with a B. So they're doing something right. Some of my best paying loads were TQL loads. Chase Perry says it's good for SNI. Right. I remember, the last time I was in Denver, Jason, the beer loads coming out of Coors were paying, literally, before Landstar's cut, $1.10 a mile, and they would not budge on them at all. So my choices were to deadhead to Kansas City, which wasn't a great market for them either, or take the load that would give me the least amount of hit. So what I did is I took it was a drop and hook, and it was ready then and there, so that was good. The agent called me, and I I ended up taking the Shawnee, Oklahoma, which is, if you go down 287, it was all flat. So a heavy beer low where it's all flat, that's the way to do it. So it got me out of there, and but usually I made my money going in. So did you hear the J Canal beer hauling story? No. Big Rich says, if I can make enough going to cover that $1.20 a load out and still make profit when combining the revenue in and out, I'm okay with that. I'm worried that if I go to Colorado that I may get I forget how to drive a truck. Alex says, I was talking to Eric Cornelius at Traveloka. I'm tempted to go there. Well, Alex, I know people are doing very well over there. TQL is a lot to Cali from Memphis for $1.69 per mile. The short game, you get a higher rate per mile, or you should be. So sometimes playing the long game, the longer you run, the more consistency you can have. You know, if you're the kind of guy that wants to bump just $2 a week, and you're okay with, an average rate, then long haul can be good. You're on the low board less, um, and you get in consistency. Whereas the short game, you got to hustle a little bit. You got to work a little bit. You got to time it just right. You got to make sure that nothing goes wrong. You can easily have a 100-mile run turn into an all-day affair. So if you're getting your daily rate, that's not a bad, then you're still good. That's the beauty of short haul. Roscoe's talked about that. But the reality is, we're still figuring it out. And I don't like to bug Jeff too much. I don't like to, I don't want to bug him too much. And he would help me. I mean, he has. He definitely has. If he sees that I'm sitting a little bit, he'll start sending me screenshots of loads, and that's great. And there's no pressure to take those loads. But when he sees something that I don't, then I take a closer look because obviously I've missed something. And that's the difference of working for somebody who's been out here for 28 years as an owner operator. So. But I like to figure things out on my own sometimes. I have to touch the stove myself to know that, oh, don't do that. And so I try not to bother Jeff too much. Especially as we get more and more drivers. I kind of want to be pretty independent. I took pride in the fact that I very rarely had to call Schneider for anything, and I know a little bit of what I'm doing. It's not like I'm struggling. It's not like I can't do this on my own, but it's just it's just learning. Let's see here. Behind on comments as usual. 38 of you in here. If nothing happens, Jason Perry says it will be my best week at Snyder. 5,700 might clear 75. Jason Perry, you bring up a good point. A lot of the guys at Snyder, here's what a lot of them do. Okay. You get the Snyder finance truck. You want to feel it out. You want to see if this is doable, right? You get the Snyder finance truck and you run the boards, and then you figure out, this is exactly what I want to do. So then you go to the next step. You reduce your costs. So they get rid of the Snyder finance truck, buy a truck, and then you're golden. Now, buying a truck is a scary thing. A lot of guys don't want to make that commitment. And so, they're looking for walkaway leases, which, it's hard to find a true walkaway lease. Like Jeff said, depending on how much is owed on the truck, you might end up owing money if you get out of a lease early. At Schneider, you definitely will. However, you look at it's a good test. It's a good way to test yourself. It's a good way to test the waters. That's kind of what couple of friends of mine have done. They got a Schneider Finance truck. I'm like, you know what? I could do this. And then they went and got their own truck. Buying a truck is not the easiest thing to do. And there's definitely a lot more risk to it. If I can't make my truck payment, I take a ding to my credit. You can't make the truck payment at Schneider, they don't report to the credit bureau. Okay, let's go back to the comments here. Basically, they loaded him up on the trailer floor, no pallets. He delivered a giant vehicle, which got refused. Wow. Big Rich, I also make sure that my average leaves me a solid 25% profit. If I can't make that happen, I don't go. Alex says he's going to activate his authority soon. Good deal. If nothing happens, this will be okay. I already read that. I missed a couple of comments then. Big Rich says I really want to do the I-10 ride from Florida to Arizona. You know the right people, you can make it happen. Big Rich. CPAP is in the house. Randy Spears, I know a driver told me one time the moment you sign your name on that piece of paper for that truck, you sign your name to the next 30 seconds can be a major. Okay, let me read that over. I know a driver told me one time the moment you sign your name on that piece of paper for that truck, you sign your name to the next 30 seconds can be a major disaster. If you have a death in the family or need to leave for personal reasons, you can get out of a lease here, says Bandit. But it's not a true walkway. Right. You're going to end up owing money, And I get it, man. It is a scary risk because you hear all the stories of failure. You hear all the stories of hardship. You hear all the stories of oh, dude, I did that and I failed miserably. I'm happier being a company driver. And in a lot of companies, especially dispatch companies, it's a little bit more of a challenge. I was talking to a friend of mine. We were talking about, I don't know if I could be a company driver doing 650 miles a day. I don't think I could do that. A lot of people go, well, if you don't want to pay for parking, schedule your stuff better. Sometimes it's out of your control. You have a dispatcher and tells you to go, you need to go. There's a certain amount of pressure, when you have a dispatcher. And, when you're choosing your own freight, you can alleviate that pressure. Like, okay, well, I've got 12 hours to do, 300 miles. We're good. So when an accident comes up, or if you having trouble parking, all these things come up, you're not stressed out about it. Being an owner operator has a different kind of stress, with the money and everything. And the more you got riding at home, the more stressful it can be. Yes, it is a ghost behind me in CPAP. Benjamin says I've had issues, but I'm doing okay in my opinion. 72 more payments and out of it's all paid for. The whole anti-paid parking deal is nonsensical to me. Don't even get me started. Big Rich, I'm going to do exactly what you said not to do. Let's talk about paid parking for a minute. Jeff said it best this morning. There's a time and place for paid parking. Paid parking in New Jersey, I'm all for it. Paid parking in like Dallas, I'm all for it. Paid parking in Effingham because you can, don't need it. That's a little excessive. Mount Vernon, Illinois, same thing. Pay to park is not a new concept. Okay. I remember riding with my dad back in the late 80s, early 90s. There were a lot of places that you had to pay to park, especially up Northeast. And you couldn't reserve them. You couldn't get online and reserve them. So, and then like I used to do this delivery at Foxborough Stadium several times a year, and you had to pay for parking at the two truck stops that were right by there, and you weren't parking anywhere else near it. So there's a time and place for all of it, and sometimes it's a blessing, sometimes it's a curse. You know, if you're in a situation like London, Ohio, when you got the TA who's eliminated almost all the free parking, well, then you just go over to the Speedway because, you know, Speedway is in charge, so they get your business. You know, um, if I'm making a delivery in Dallas at 6 in the morning and I want to be there the night before and I want to guarantee myself parking, reserve parking is awesome because then I don't have to sit 100 miles away and worry about going into Dallas at 6 a.m. for during rush hour. So it has its places, it has its moments. CPAP says TA Petro used to be all paid guard shack, grab a ticket, right? Like in Monette or not Monette, Moni, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. Capitalism, 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 says Big Rich. If you're discontent, open your own truck stop and let people dump their stuff in your lot for free. It's like anything else. If it's excessive, it becomes kind of annoying. But if it's got its perks and its tools, then you can utilize that. And then the other thing, if you're choosing your rates, build that into the rate. If you have to go into say Baltimore, you know you're going to pay for parking. Well, you treat that like tolls. You don't bid on a load going to New York City without compensating for the fact that you got to pay $100 just to cross the GW Bridge. You'll lose your butt. So you look at parking the same way, just like you do tolls. Consider it a toll. You might do a load from say St. Louis to Chicago. You may not have any tolls, going up 57, but you count in the fact that, well, I'm going to be paying $18 to park there at the Petro. Alex, that's interesting, Alex. Now the new trend is faking mechanical breakdown and putting out triangles and park on ramps and highways. Interesting, Alex. That's interesting. Rebel Trucker says they have different prices everywhere. A lot of the prices just depends on what time of day. So if you reserve a spot in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's cheaper than if you're like pulling up at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. to pick a spot. Pay parking is messed up. I'd rather get a hotel, says Wilbur. I hear you, and I like how like the Petro Memphis does it. If you get fuel, the parking's free. If you buy $15 worth of stuff inside the truck stop, which is pretty easy to do, then it's free. At least you're getting something for your money. I like that system, but this whole system, $18 and you get a bottle of water, you know, but it has its tools. Like I said, like I've said before. Benjamin Duke, excellent comment. That's the key. Put it in the rate. Tell the broker, hey, sorry, with these times, that's an extra $50 for parking if you need to justify it. But it's about you saying your minimum rate and getting it right. So it's all part of the cost. It costs me more to do a load from say Missouri to Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, because of the tolls, than say the same amount of miles on a load, the same load going from Missouri to say Georgia. You know, so it's all part of the cost. You know, if I'm going to Pennsylvania, I need a higher rate per mile because it costs me more to get there. Oops. There's just not enough parking, Alex says, in most areas of the country, especially in the Northeast. And right, Alex comes from the Northeast. So, Northeast, the paid parking can be a blessing. I know it was for me. The last time I was up in Connecticut, I paid for a parking spot. I got the last spot, and I was very grateful because if not, I would have been screwed. Like bad. I'll take load to Florida because I want to go to Disney. Bandit. Tolls are going up in PA too. How much CPAP are they going up? Jason Perry said, what about the company drivers that don't get their money back for parking and can't always have control of their day? Jason, a lot of the mega carriers are coming up with perks. I talked to a guy last time I was in Mount Vernon, Illinois, who said that his company pays for parking. I think Swift might have a thing for that, and it's been talked about that might be an enticement. Like, hey, come over to my company and we pay for your parking. You know, just like Schneider, if you're an owner operator Schneider, they pay for your tolls in Pennsylvania. So it's nothing for a company to say, hey, we'll pay for parking. You know, and my old company, when I was a company driver, they would reimburse me. You know, unless it was like, you know, like I don't know, they'd probably reimburse now. But if you're just paying for parking every single night, they may not reimburse you. But if I'm delivering in Baltimore, they would reimburse me. So. Mr. Barrett says, I got tired of fighting for loads going west. I quit to go to Operation Iraq Freedom, where I stayed for 10 years. CFI reimburses for parking, says Big Rich. Yep. Oh, Alex says Swift pays company drivers to park, not lease ops. See, that's bogus, I think. Not bogus, but lame. I think they should do it across. That should be a perk. Hey, I want to be a Swift lease operator. What are your perks? Well, we pay tolls and we pay for parking. Well, there you go. Experience to know what it costs, math skills to get your rate, then say I'll pass or no to the lower rate. If your rate does not cover the cost will be covered by your profit or wage. Benjamin Duke says, Berger is going to make Schneider bankrupt with all the PA tolls he drives on, says CPAP. Yeah, if I have a chance, you know, Jason Perry says it is needed at times, but I'm a cheap skate and trying to keep my channel PG here because I don't know if Logan's watching. You know, we got to be cool for Logan, right? Yeah, when it's excessive, that's where it bothers me. Where it's needed, it becomes a blessing. Wish Snyder would pay Ohio and Indy tolls, says Jason Perry. Spoopy says it's hard to cross PA without tolls. You are correct. If you don't believe that comment, take a load of heavy paper across 68 instead of 76 and tell me it's not worth that extra $150 to go across. I don't care who you are. Yeah, 68. 68 does not have a straight line longer than this pen. That's 68. Rebel Trucker, thanks for the heads up. You are welcome. You're not the first person I've had to warn about that. Got to be careful. You got to be careful with the social media stuff. 68 is like a goat trail. That's what Roscoe says. Yes, sir. These tolls are so expensive, yet roads are terrible to drive on. I hear you, Alex. Jason Ferry, the only thing 68 is missing is a Hot Wheels loop. That's funny. 68 is also known as Truck Killer, yeah. I did 68 once. And you know why I did 68? So Here's how much of an idiot I am sometimes. So back when I hauled hazmat, we were hauling batteries out of Topton, Pennsylvania, and I thought you couldn't take corrosive into the tunnels on 76. I had not run one of these loads yet, so I went down 68, right? And when I got into Springfield, my dispatcher pulls me in. He goes, "Hey, man, what's up?" I'm like, "Hey, not much." He's like, "Hey, here's a piece of paper." He hands me this piece of paper, and they say it on the signs outside of the tunnels. You cannot haul bulk corrosive through the tunnels. That's tanker. So I'd run 68 for no reason at all. And batteries are heavy, guys. They're heavy. All this talk about truck driving makes me ready to get out there. Well, Big Rich, time to go to work, man. Time to go to work. First time I hauled for Snyder, it was a load of paper rolls from Green Bay across PA and made the mistake of following the Qualcomm. Yep. Some companies have their Qualcomm set up to where they don't like you taking tolls. You can take the tolls, but the Qualcomm's going to tell you, hey, here's this free road over here, so they don't have to pay for it. Can't take flammable. Yeah, I didn't, you know, it's one of those learning experiences, Will Burke. You're right. So 81's not too bad. 80's not too bad, but 68, I'll pay double the tolls to not be on that road again, especially with a heavy load. Now, if you're light, go for it. Tolls are a way of extortion. They know it's a crappier way to go if you avoid the tolls. So that's kind of why they're invented. Hey, you can take this really crappy road for free and add an hour to your trip, or you have this nice highway with travel plazas and Starbucks and Popeye's chicken and plenty of places to rest, but it's going to cost you. So you can either take the goat trail, that's really bad, or you can take this sleek highway. So, I heard VA is thinking about making 81 a toll road. It's going to get to the point where they're all going to be toll roads. I think they were talking about making 70 in Missouri between St. Louis and Kansas City a toll road. '77 in North Carolina is becoming a toll road. That's interesting. Wilbur says he likes the bad roads versus the tolls. Depends where you're at. Ohio, Indiana is not too bad. That's why Snyder doesn't pay Ohio and Indiana, because the side roads aren't too bad, to be honest. So we're at an hour. I'm sorry my live feeds with Next Gen didn't come out very well because of my signal. So I apologize for that. I'm here on my laptop with the Wi-Fi, so that's why we haven't lost signal yet. YouTube, have you guys noticed YouTube goes in phases for me? Like even watching other people's live feeds, I have to keep refreshing, even though there's nothing wrong with their end. Even though I've been watching the last 5 videos in the same spot, it's like all of a sudden, it gets cut. And it's annoying. YouTube's making a lot of changes, so there's growing pains, and the carrier of my phone that I work with, they're making a lot of changes right now. I've got a friend of mine whose sister works very high up at the company. We'll set it, and they're doing a lot of infrastructure work, and I could tell. So you know that truck only highway they're talking about making around Atlanta is going to be heavily monetized. Yeah, well, isn't that what? Yeah, Atlanta needs something. I'd pay good money to bypass the Atlanta. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Jason. Cool. Anyways, my dinner's almost ready, and
Sorry.
okay, let me think of another excuse to get off this live
You're
feed.
already over an hour and they're bored.
Okay. I'm gonna go watch Live PD here pretty soon because
It is
you know,
time for that.
yeah. Big Rich said I just got my pre-pass thing about going ahead and upgrade for Tulsa. I need to get my Easy Pass. I've got pre-pass. I've got Pike Pass. Well, not Pike Pass. I've got K-Tag, which covers Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. And it's nice because I don't have to stop at the toll booths. And I save money at the Dallas. Because, the Dallas toll booths, they'll mail you, but that costs more money to do that. And K-Tag, I save 30%. So, um, CPAP says get the pre-pass elite. Big Rich, if you get the King Pass that does all toll roads, it's a 3-week holdup. Yeah. Benjamin says he's got Circle of Death. I don't know why. Goes back to what I was saying. But I appreciate you guys watching my live feed, my third one for tonight. I appreciate everyone's insight. And I count my blessings every day of what I got here at Like Trucking. It's awesome. And guys, be good to each other. Don't sweat the small stuff. And just you do you. So, see you.